My child, this message did not reach you by accident. It found you at a moment when your heart has been carrying a question you have not known how to say. You may have tried to ignore it. You may have filled your day with enough noise that you would not have to sit still with it. You may have told yourself that it was nothing, only a passing thought, only tiredness, only another restless night. But it has returned. It has returned in the quiet after everyone else has gone home. It has returned when you saw your reflection and wondered when you stopped recognizing the person looking back at you. It has returned when something ordinary happened, and for one brief moment, you felt a longing for a different kind of life. It has returned because there is a part of you that is asking to be heard. Stay with me for this moment, because before this message ends, I want to show you why the same question keeps returning to your heart. You have been waiting for a dramatic sign. You have expected clarity to arrive like thunder, loud enough to remove every doubt and strong enough to make every choice obvious. But many of the most important invitations in your life arrive quietly. They arrive as a discomfort you cannot dismiss. They arrive as a desire that refuses to disappear. They arrive as a tiredness that tells you the way you have been living cannot continue forever. You have been calling these moments inconvenient, but they may be invitations. Not invitations to panic. Not invitations to abandon everything without wisdom. Invitations to pay attention. You have moved through days as though you must always be ready for the next demand. You have answered messages, carried expectations, met responsibilities, and tried to be strong in rooms where you felt small. And because you have become skilled at moving, you have not always noticed what your soul has been trying to tell you. Your soul has been asking for honesty. It has been asking for rest. It has been asking you to stop pretending that you can live without tenderness. It has been asking you to remember that your life is more than surviving the next difficult thing. My child, this moment is not here to accuse you. It is here to interrupt the pattern that has made you forget you are alive. You have been so busy managing what everyone else needs that you have not asked what you need. You have been so focused on carrying what may happen tomorrow that you have not noticed what is happening inside you today. You have been so willing to make room for other people's pain that you have stopped making room for your own healing. And I have watched you do this with a heart full of compassion. I know why you became this way. You learned that being useful was safer than being vulnerable. You learned that helping other people was easier than letting anyone see where you hurt. You learned to be the one who keeps moving because you were afraid that stopping would let every emotion catch up with you at once. But you do not have to keep running from your own heart. I am not asking you to solve every hidden pain tonight. I am asking you to listen to one honest thing. Maybe the honest thing is that you are tired. Maybe it is that you are lonely even though you are surrounded by people. Maybe it is that a relationship has asked too much of your peace. Maybe it is that a dream you buried is still alive beneath the disappointment. Maybe it is that you have been living by rules you never chose. Whatever it is, do not dismiss it because it is uncomfortable. The discomfort may not be proof that something is wrong with you. It may be proof that you have outgrown something that once felt necessary. You have outgrown the need to be understood by everyone. You have outgrown the belief that you must earn every good thing. You have outgrown the idea that being exhausted is the same as being faithful. You have outgrown the version of you who believes that silence is safer than truth. And that can feel unsettling. Growth often does. When an old pattern begins to loosen, the familiar part of you may try to pull it back into place. Fear may say, "Do not change, you know how to survive here." Shame may say, "You have waited too long." Doubt may say, "What if this feeling means nothing?" But I am speaking to you now, because your life is not meant to be controlled by the voices that keep you small. There is a reason you are still longing. There is a reason you still notice beauty. There is a reason you still want peace, even after all the ways life has disappointed you. That longing is not weakness. It is evidence that the deepest part of you has not given up. You have told yourself that you are behind. But you are not behind me. You have told yourself that you missed your chance. But I am not finished with you. You have told yourself that the past has already decided what you can become. But your past is not the author of every page that remains. This moment is asking for your attention because there is still life in you. There is still a choice in you. There is still a path forward that cannot be seen while you are only looking backward. You do not have to make the whole path visible tonight. You only need to stop calling your inner truth an interruption. It may be the beginning of your return. Take a breath. Let the noise become quiet for a few seconds. Ask yourself, what keeps returning to my heart? Do not judge the answer. Do not explain it away. Bring it before me. I am not far from the question. I am in the room with you now. My child, there is a question that keeps returning to your heart. You may not say it out loud. You may not even know how to put it into words, but it is there beneath your routines, beneath your responsibilities, beneath the ways you have learned to keep yourself busy. It sounds like this. Is this all my life is meant to be? Not because your life has no value. Not because everything around you is wrong. But because you have felt the difference between being alive and merely getting through the day. You have felt it in the morning when you reach for your phone before you had time to hear your own thoughts. You have felt it in the evening when you finally sat down and realized that you had spent the whole day answering other people's needs. You have felt it when you kept saying yes, while something inside you was quietly asking for a no. You have felt it when you looked at the life you built and wondered why it no longer feels like a place where your heart can rest. Stay with me because I want to speak gently to this question. The question is not a sign that you are ungrateful. It is not a sign that you are selfish. It is not a sign that you have failed. It may be the beginning of a deeper honesty. You have spent a long time thinking that gratitude meant you could never admit you were tired. You have confused contentment with silence. You have confused faithfulness with accepting every burden that comes to you. But you can be grateful and still be honest. You can appreciate what you have and still acknowledge that something needs to change. You can love people and still stop allowing them to take more from you than you can give. You can trust me and still ask for direction. There is no shame in asking, "What now?" I hear that question. I hear it when you ask with words. I hear it when you sit in your car for a few extra minutes because you do not want to go inside yet. I hear it when you stare at the ceiling and wonder why your heart feels so full. I hear it when you feel a small ache after a conversation that everyone else thought was normal. The question keeps returning because it is asking you to look beneath the surface. You have been trying to solve your life at the surface. You have changed schedules. You have made plans. You have pushed yourself harder. You have waited for other people to notice. You have told yourself that one more achievement, one more answer, one more improvement would finally make you feel settled. But peace does not always come from doing more. Sometimes peace begins when you stop abandoning the part of yourself that needs to be heard. You have learned to survive by ignoring your own signals. You ignore hunger until you are exhausted. You ignore sadness until it becomes numbness. You ignore resentment until it becomes distance. You ignore the need for rest until your body forces you to stop. You ignore the desire for change until the old life becomes too heavy to carry. But I do not want you to wait until you break before you let yourself receive care. You do not need a crisis to deserve rest. You do not need permission from every person around you to take your own heart seriously. You do not need to be at the end of your strength before you admit that you need help. The question returning to your heart may be telling you that you are ready for a different relationship with yourself. Not a relationship built on criticism. Not a relationship built on achievement. Not a relationship built on fear of disappointing everyone. A relationship built on truth. You can tell yourself the truth without making yourself your enemy. You can say, "This hurts," without becoming hopeless. You can say, "I need more," without becoming ungrateful. You can say, "I cannot live this way forever," without deciding that your whole life is ruined. The truth is not your enemy. The truth is the place where healing begins. There is a story in Scripture about Samuel hearing a voice in the night. At first, he did not recognize it. He thought someone else was calling him. Only after he was taught to listen did he answer, "Speak, for your servant is listening." You are learning to listen too. Not every inner signal is a command. Not every feeling must decide your future. But the things that return with honesty, the things that remain after the noise fades, the things that call you toward life rather than away from it, those deserve your attention. Ask me about them. Ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Ask, "What am I afraid to admit?" Ask, "What would change if I stopped treating my own peace as optional?" Ask, "What have I mistaken for normal because I have lived with it so long?" You may not receive every answer in a single moment, but an honest question creates room for a true answer. You have been afraid that if you open this door, you will have to change everything. You may not. Sometimes the first change is simply recognizing what is true. Sometimes the first change is resting. Sometimes it is making one phone call. Sometimes it is allowing yourself to say, "I do not know." Sometimes it is deciding that the version of you who is always available, always pleasing, always performing strength, no longer has to run your life. The question keeps returning because it is not here to destroy you. It is here to lead you back to yourself. And when you return to yourself with honesty, you will find that I have been there all along. My child, do not dismiss every deep desire as random. There are desires that ask you to escape responsibility. There are desires born from pain that only want immediate relief. But there are also desires that return because they are connected to something true inside you. The desire to be at peace. The desire to be known without having to perform. The desire to create something honest. The desire to be treated with care. The desire to wake up and feel that your life belongs to you again. The desire to stop living in fear. These desires are not proof that you are weak. They can be evidence that you are alive. Stay with me, because I want you to learn the difference between a desire that drains you and a desire that leads you toward life. A draining desire says, "I need this now no matter what it costs." A life-giving desire says, "I want to become more whole even if it takes time." A draining desire asks you to betray yourself for temporary relief. A life-giving desire asks you to become honest about what has been hurting you. A draining desire leaves you emptier after you follow it. A life-giving desire may feel difficult at first, but it creates more truth, more peace, and more room for you to breathe. You have been afraid of your desires because you have been hurt by some of them before. You wanted love and accepted attention that did not protect your heart. You wanted belonging and stayed where you had to make yourself smaller. You wanted relief and return to habits that gave you a moment of comfort, but left you feeling farther from yourself. I know. And because you have been hurt, you have tried to stop wanting anything at all. You told yourself that it was safer to expect less. You told yourself that needing less would make disappointment hurt less. You told yourself that dreams were dangerous because dreams could fail. But numbing your desire is not the same as finding peace. It only makes you less available to the good that is still trying to reach you. I did not create you to live without longing. Longing is not always a problem to solve. Sometimes it is a compass. It tells you that you were made for more than what you have accepted. It tells you that the life you are living has room to become more truthful. It tells you that there is a part of you that is still waiting to be welcomed home. Do not let disappointment make you cruel toward your own hopes. You may need to hold them with wisdom. You may need to test them with time. You may need to ask whether they lead you toward peace or away from it. But do not automatically call them foolish. There are things in you that have survived because they are meant to. The part of you that still wants beauty has survived. The part of you that still wants to love has survived. The part of you that still wants to make a difference has survived. The part of you that still believes you can begin again has survived. That matters. You have thought that your desire for a different life means you are dissatisfied with everything you have. But it may mean you are ready to become more intentional. You have been living by default in some places. You have let old habits decide your mornings. You have let other people's urgency decide your schedule. You have let fear decide what you will not try. You have let shame decide which parts of yourself deserve to be hidden. But you can begin to choose differently. Not all at once. One choice at a time. You can ask, what would bring more truth into this day? You can ask, what am I doing only because I am afraid of disappointing someone? You can ask, what is one small thing I can do that would make me feel more alive? You can ask, what do I need to stop calling impossible? These are not selfish questions. They are questions of stewardship. Your life has been entrusted to you. Your attention has been entrusted to you. Your body, your time, your voice, your capacity to love. These are not things to throw away in order to make everyone else comfortable. You can care for others without disappearing. You can be faithful without becoming exhausted. You can be humble without accepting a story that says you do not matter. My child, the desire returning to your heart may not be a command to act immediately. It may be a call to listen. Listen before you dismiss it. Listen before you call yourself unrealistic. Listen before you give your whole future to the fear that says nothing good can change. There is a reason some dreams survive disappointment. There is a reason some questions survive distraction. There is a reason you are still here, still reaching, still longing. Your heart is not trying to betray you. It may be trying to lead you toward the part of your life that needs to be reclaimed. Bring that desire to me. Do not worship it. Do not fear it. Bring it to me. Ask what it is teaching you. Ask what it is revealing. Ask what small faithful action could honor it today. You do not need the whole dream to become reality before you allow it to matter. A seed matters before it becomes a tree. A whispered prayer matters before it becomes an answer. A new desire matters before it becomes a new life. You have not been foolish for wanting more peace. You have not been wrong for wanting to be seen. You have not been too much for wanting a life that does not require you to abandon yourself. This is not random. It is a part of you asking to be treated with care. My child, Do not underestimate ordinary moments. You have been waiting for your life to change through something dramatic. You have imagined that clarity will arrive in one great decision, one unforgettable conversation, one moment that divides the old life from the new. Sometimes that happens, but many lives change through smaller moments. A moment when you tell the truth instead of making an excuse. A moment when you sit with your grief instead of distracting yourself from it. A moment when you decide that your body deserves rest. A moment when you stop arguing with the fact that something is hurting you. A moment when you take a walk instead of reopening the message that always makes you feel small. A moment when you say, "I need help. Stay with me," because the ordinary moment you keep overlooking may be where your future begins. You have thought that your life needs a grand rescue, but perhaps you need a faithful return. A return to your breath. A return to your values. A return to what you know is true. A return to the people who bring out honesty in you. A return to the part of yourself that you have ignored for too long. You do not have to wait for a perfect day to begin living differently. You can begin on the day when you are tired. You can begin on the day when you do not feel confident. You can begin while you still have questions. You can begin before everyone understands your decision. The first step may be small enough that no one else notices. That does not make it unimportant. There are small choices that become foundations. The way you speak to yourself becomes a foundation. The boundary you keep becomes a foundation. The person you call becomes a foundation. The prayer you pray before you react becomes a foundation. The moment you choose to eat, sleep, or rest instead of punishing yourself becomes a foundation. You have been looking for proof that you are changing. Look at the choices you are beginning to consider. You are not asking the same questions you asked before. You are no longer satisfied with things that once felt normal. You are starting to notice where you disappear. You are starting to notice where you feel peace. You are starting to recognize the difference between being loved and being needed. These are signs of growth. Do not insult your own growth because it does not look dramatic yet. You have lived through enough intensity. You do not need intensity to prove that something is meaningful. A quiet life can be meaningful. A gentle choice can be meaningful. A slow return to yourself can be meaningful. I know that quiet can feel unfamiliar when you have lived in chaos. I know that peace can feel suspicious when you have been trained to expect disruption. But do not confuse familiar anxiety with purpose. Do not confuse exhaustion with love. Do not confuse being constantly needed with being deeply valued. You can learn a new way. You can learn to receive a peaceful moment without searching for what will ruin it. You can learn to let a kind word remain kind without turning it into a debt. You can learn to rest without making rest a reason to feel guilty. This is not weakness. This is restoration. There is a story about Esther that reminds us of timing. She did not know every part of the future when she was placed where she was, but when the moment came, she was asked to respond with courage. Her life was not made meaningful only because she knew everything. It became meaningful because she was willing to act faithfully in the moment she was given. You do not know every part of your future either, but you know enough to take the next honest step. You know enough to tell the truth. You know enough to stop calling harm love. You know enough to seek help when you need it. You know enough to be gentle with the part of yourself that is still healing. Do not wait for a future version of yourself to give the present version of you permission to begin. Begin now. The ordinary moment in front of you may not look like much, but it may be the first stone in the path that carries you somewhere new. You do not need to make it dramatic. You only need to make it true. My child, this message found you at a moment when you are ready to pay attention. That is enough. Pay attention to what gives you life. Pay attention to what drains it. Pay attention to the people who make you feel safe enough to be honest. Pay attention to the thoughts that return only to accuse you. Pay attention to the small joy you have been too busy to receive. Your life is not hidden in a future you cannot reach. It is being formed in the moments you keep thinking are ordinary. Receive them. Honor them. Let them teach you how to come home. My child, you are allowed to begin again. You have made the past heavier than it was meant to be. You have taken one mistake and turned it into a prophecy. You have taken one rejection and turned it into a definition of what you deserve. You have taken one difficult season and made it evidence that every future season must be hard. But the past cannot keep making every decision for you unless you keep giving it that power. You are allowed to remember without remaining trapped. You are allowed to learn without living in shame. You are allowed to grieve without believing grief is your permanent home. Stay with me, because this is the part I want you to receive without turning away. You are not the version of yourself who did not know what you know now. You are not the person you were on your hardest day. You are not the words someone said when they did not see your worth. You are not the fear that spoke loudest when you were exhausted. You are becoming. And becoming is not always graceful. Sometimes becoming means noticing a pattern you wish you had noticed sooner. Sometimes it means apologizing. Sometimes it means releasing a plan. Sometimes it means admitting that you need a new beginning. But a new beginning is not proof you failed. It is proof you are still willing to live. You have been afraid that people will judge you if you change. Some may. Some people feel safer when you stay predictable. Some people benefited from the version of you who did not have boundaries. Some people may not understand why you can no longer make yourself available in the same way. But their discomfort does not automatically mean your growth is wrong. You do not need to turn your healing into a public argument. You do not need to convince everyone that your needs are real. You can become quieter, clearer, and more honest without announcing every reason. The life you are building does not need everyone's approval to be true. My child, you have been trying to wait until you feel worthy of beginning again. But worthiness is not the entry price for a new beginning. A new beginning begins when you become willing. Willing to tell the truth. Willing to learn. Willing to receive help. Willing to let old shame lose its place at the center of your story. Willing to take one step even while your hands are shaking. You may be asking, what if I fail again? Then you will learn again. You may be asking, what if I am disappointed? Then you will not be alone in the disappointment. You may be asking, what if I do not know enough? You will learn what you need as you walk. You do not need to be immune to pain in order to become brave. You do not need to be certain in order to become faithful. You do not need to be perfect in order to be loved. There is room for you to grow. There is room for you to change your mind. There is room for you to let a dead dream become something different rather than forcing it to stay alive in the wrong form. There is room for you to release people without making yourself cruel. There is room for you to forgive yourself for surviving with the tools you had. Do not hate the old version of you. That version was trying to survive. Thank them for carrying you this far. Then let them rest. You do not have to keep living by every old rule they created. You do not have to keep choosing the familiar just because it once kept you safe. You can learn new ways to be safe. You can learn to let people love you without fearing they will use it against you. You can learn to say no without believing you are bad. You can learn to say yes without abandoning yourself. You can learn to rest without calling it laziness. You can learn to hope without demanding certainty. This is how a life changes. Not through one perfect moment, through many honest returns. A return to truth. A return to rest. A return to the people who help you become more yourself. A return to the quiet voice that says, you do not have to live this way forever. You are allowed to begin again. Not tomorrow only. Not when you feel more confident. Not when everyone else approves. Today, you can begin by believing that you are still here for a reason. You can begin by refusing to speak to yourself like an enemy. You can begin by taking the desire for peace seriously. You can begin by asking for help. You can begin by letting this moment mean something. My child, I am not asking you to pretend the past never happened. I am asking you to stop letting it decide what love, hope, and possibility can mean for you now. You have more life ahead of you than fear wants you to believe. Let yourself receive that truth. Let yourself move forward slowly. Let yourself be new. My child, there is also a quiet freedom that comes when you stop asking every moment to prove that it was meant to happen. You do not have to turn every coincidence into a command, and you do not have to turn every unanswered question into a rejection. You can live attentively without living anxiously. You can notice what returns to your heart, test it with wisdom, bring it into prayer, and then respond with patience. The meaning of this moment is not that you must suddenly know everything. Its meaning is that you are no longer willing to sleepwalk through your own life. You are becoming awake to what brings peace and what steals it. You are becoming awake to the people who invite honesty and the patterns that demand you disappear. You are becoming awake to the difference between a burden that belongs to you and a burden you have accepted only because you were afraid to disappoint someone. This awareness is a gift, but it also asks for tenderness. Do not use new awareness to punish yourself for what you did not understand before. Do not say, I should have seen it sooner. Say instead, I can see it now and I can choose differently now. That is enough. You can honor the past version of yourself without remaining trapped by its decisions. When you are tempted to rush, return to the smallest true thing. You are here. You are loved. You can breathe. You can ask for help. You can choose one honest action. You can let the rest unfold in time. A life changes when these small truths are practiced, not only when they are admired. I am not asking you to create a perfect future from this one moment. I am asking you to let this one moment become honest. Let it become a place where you stop performing strength. Let it become a place where you allow hope to stay. Let it become a place where you remember that you are still being guided toward life. And when fear tells you that this is too small to matter, answer it gently. Every honest beginning matters, every quiet return matters, and every step toward peace is received. My child, this message did not reach you by accident. You stopped here at a moment when your heart needed permission to be honest. You stopped here because something in you is tired of being ignored. You stopped here because a part of you still believes that life can become more peaceful, more truthful, and more whole. Let that part of you speak. You do not have to make a great speech. You do not need perfect faith. You do not need to explain your entire story. You only need to bring one honest thing into the light. Let this be your prayer. God, I have been carrying questions that I have not known how to ask. I have been moving through my days without always listening to what my heart needs. I have called exhaustion normal. I have called fear wisdom. I have called silence peace when silence was actually hurting me. Help me become honest. Help me notice what keeps returning to my heart. Help me distinguish between a desire that drains me and a desire that leads me toward life. Help me release the shame that tells me I have waited too long. Help me take the next small step toward truth. Teach me to rest without guilt. Teach me to receive help without fear. Teach me to let the past become wisdom instead of a prison. Teach me to believe that I am allowed to begin again. And when I forget that I am loved, remind me that you are still near. My child, I hear that prayer. I hear it even if you did not say every word. I hear it if your heart only whispered, "Help me." I hear it if you are still uncertain. I hear it if part of you wants to believe and another part is afraid to hope. You do not have to force certainty. You do not have to make a promise you are not ready to keep. You can begin with willingness. You can say, "I am willing to listen." You can say, "I am willing to notice." You can say, "I am willing to stop abandoning the part of me that needs care." That is enough for today. Amen.